So tell me about your son and his swimming experiences.
Oh, thanks, Mark. Yeah. So Wesley was born with a rare genetic disorder, and he is non-ambulatory, can't talk, can't walk, and need 24/7 care. And when he was, well, I guess about 2 years old, I would take him to the swimming pool, and I had to use a life vest to put him on because he didn't have the ability to stay afloat. And this was in Irvine, California, at the community pool. And I spent a lot of time with Wesley in the pool for the next 2 or 3 years because that was the only place where he could be independent, where he could float around because he couldn't walk. And I just kept doing that. That was kind of our place where we were able to have somewhat of a normal life and just enjoy each other's company in the swimming pool. And he loved the water. So this went on for like 2 or 3 years. And in Irvine, there was a swimming community there. I'm trying to think the name. Oh, it was the Colony. And it happened to be the same swimming community that Amanda Beard was a part of, the gold medalist. And at the time, there was this from the parents of special needs community to force inclusion in the school systems. And I was not a big supporter of that because I wanted people to embrace and Wesley because they wanted to, not because they had to. So I decided to write a letter to the board of directors of the Irvine Colony swim team to describe why I wanted Wesley to be on the swim team and what my intentions were, and also to let them know that I was not asking them for any special treatment. I just wanted Wesley to be part of the swim team and that I would be responsible for whatever I needed to do to help him acclimate to the rules and so whatever of the swim team policy in terms of which event, and I would take responsibility for being there to help him swim across the pool instead of asking them to do all the stuff they needed to do because he needed special attention in the pool. Does that make sense, Mark?
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you wrote the letter.
Yeah. And they were they agreed to letting me, Wesley, be part of the team. So just to give you a visual, and I wish that at the time that I would have taken the video and pictures, but I had no idea the wonderful outcome that came out of this at the end of the season. So Wesley, I put him in a life vest. So he was 5 at the time. And as everybody knows, the swimming community, there are lanes there. And so the first practice, I put him in the lane, and Wesley doesn't have that concept of following directions. And so I put him at the beginning of the lane, and he just kind of swam around in circles. And we were trying to figure out, okay, how do we get Wesley across to the other side of the pool? So I kind of jumped in there and I would started swimming backwards and he would follow me. But then he would stop on the way towards the other end of the pool. So you can imagine that took quite a bit of time. I would probably say the first time I did it, it probably took anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. Excuse me. So I just kept doing that every practice for a while, and I don't know how many weeks that on until we got to the first meet. So we go to the first meet, and I put Wesley in the pool, And he's like looking at me kind of funny and smiling because he has no idea what the heck's going on. So I jump in the pool and I'm swimming backwards, and he's following me all the way to the other end of the pool. And all the parents and the kids were so patient because the other kids had already made it to the other end of the pool, and we weren't even a third of the way to the pool, in the pool. So they waited, and I think it took like 5 or 10 minutes. So at the next meet, I'm getting ready to jump in the pool, and the coach comes over to me and says, "No, I'll do it." So he winds up jumping in the pool. And now he's swimming backwards with Wesley, and I'm watching this. And then the next swim meet, the coach jumped in again. And then by the third or fourth swim meet, kids were getting in line because they wanted to take turns jumping in the pool and helping Wesley get to the other side. And what was really marvelous about this is that we eventually got Wesley to swim across the pool by himself, probably be about 2/3 into the season. It was remarkable, Mark. I was in shock, and so was everybody else. And his time, I think it took him about 5 to 6 minutes. But by the end of the year, he had it under 4 minutes. And then at the end of the year, the swimming community did a wonderful thing. They gave Wesley a wild card. Of course, he swam in the freestyle event because that's the only stroke he knew. And he kind of dog paddled. And they gave him a wild card, and he got to participate in the championship meet. And after the season was over, the parents came over to me and thanked me for asking them to put Wesley on the swim team.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's awesome. And that's at Irvine Nova. Were all the meets at the same place?
No, there were different locations. And the other wonderful thing about that is the kids. It's amazing how the kids are so much more embracing of a child with a disability than parents. The kids wanted to sit next to Wesley because you know how they set up where they warm up. I had I had to sit him in the chair. I mean, we didn't ask anybody for any special favors. So I had to put Wesley in the row of chairs, and kids would gravitate him to him whether he was sitting in the chair or not. Sometimes there was like arguments about who got to sit next to Wesley. The bonding with the kids was just amazing, and I think the parents just learned a big lesson just from watching the kids.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. And then you just did it the 1 year, or
No, I think I did it 2 years. It just got to the point where, I mean, I think they would have let me continue, but it's exhausting uh, just doing it with a normal kid. And then with Wesley, there were just so many limitations at that point that it just wasn't really worth pursuing. And was no different than saying, a child trying out for baseball, and then all of a sudden, I don't want to play baseball anymore, kind of thing. But what the parents really realized from me was that even for that first year or even the second year, what they did for me was they normalized life with Wesley for me. The fact that he was just part of the swimming community made him feel as though he was not disabled. Kind of an added story to that was to kind of let you know how much it meant to me for them to do that. There was a situation where a neighboring mom came up to me and said, or asked, what can we do to make you feel more like part of the community, so to speak? And I said, well, one of the nice things that I would like to see parents do is invite Wesley to a birthday party for their child. And the woman goes, "Oh my God, Hogan, I didn't even think about that." I go, "Yeah, Wesley was included in preschool and also uh, in the elementary school." And I just told the parent, I said, "Yeah, if Wesley was normal, your kids would invite him to a birthday party." But there's this fear of asking parents of children with special needs to do stuff like that because a lot of parents of children with special needs are really angry that they have a disabled child and they see the kid as a burden and they don't really embrace the mainstream, so to speak. And when people ask those kinds of questions, a lot of parents don't want to accept the invitation because they tend to isolate the kids. They don't want them seen in public or be part of that social atmosphere because it's to them it feels so painful. But I just had a whole different mindset, Mark. And so they invited Wesley to a birthday party. And then the parents said, "Well, what do we need to do at the house to make it comfortable for Wesley?" And I said, "Stop it. I don't want any special treatment. Stop treating Wesley like he's just disabled or special needs child. Just treat him as a normal child. You don't have to move furniture or anything. I'll just show up and I will follow Wesley around." And they said, okay. And we went to the birthday party and everything was normal. And for me, just those 2 hours of normalcy was kind of healing for me.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, because not only did I not see Wesley's disability at the party, now the parents and the kids didn't see the disability. And like I said before, the kids are amazing. The kids just pretended like he was just a normal kid.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And then, what would you suggest? Like, other swim teams in Kansas or in Virginia or whatever else, as far as how to interact with the special needs populations.
Yeah, I think the first thing that need to understand is to overcome the fear of approaching them. And a lot of times what happens, there are people in the mainstream that approach parents of children with special needs, and you just don't know where those parents are in terms of how they're dealing with the situation. But I can tell you that most of them are like in the anger stage and just painful. They're also grieving the loss of a normal life with a fully developed child. And sometimes the parents of children with special needs can get very angry in the way they respond to people, and it turns people off. And the mainstream people start stereotyping, and when they see someone else, they're not sure what should I ask. And so my suggestion is that reach out to these parents. And if you get a negative response from them, don't stop that from having another conversation with that parent or with another parent of a child with special needs, because everybody's like in a different stage of grief of where they're at. And even the parent that responds negatively, like, don't give up, because they're trying to transition and adjust. They don't want to be a burden on you. They might be embarrassed to have their kid be part of the swim team, because not every parent that has a child with disability wants to be part of the mainstream. And then once you get to that point, is if they say yes, then offer, so what can we do to help you or accommodate you to help make the experience for you a good one to be part of the swim team. And depending on limitations, like, I mean, if it's a Down syndrome child, he's probably more independent to be able to swim across. And again, you need to have discussions with the parent as far as like, well, my kid is limited to do this. They might not even have the skill level or ability that I show to the swim team, in terms of jumping in the pool and having Wesley follow me all the way to the end of the pool.
Yeah. Okay. And tell me more about, how you carry Wesley on now. Wesley's passed, tell me about, the charm and a little more, with the later chapters in the present chapter with Wesley.
Okay. Did I answer your question about what
Oh,
coaches can
yeah,
do
that
in
was
the
good.
community? It's really just about, opening dialogue and keep the dialogue going. Don't give up on these people because they're in a very crucial emotional state, and they get fed a lot of information from advocates about like demanding and getting attorneys to make sure that the rights of special needs kids uh, are taken into consideration. And I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, I'll go back to the point that I made is I don't want to force people to make Wesley part of the community. I want them to do that because they want to do it. And a lot of the parents of children with special needs just don't understand that concept. So it might behoove the coaches to kind of delicately discuss with them that, look, we would like your child to be part of the swim team. And sometimes it's also liability issues. And, that's part of the things that you need to discuss with the parents a little bit, because we live in this unfortunate world about liability. What if the special needs child gets hurt, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And
So,
you wanted me to kind of describe a little bit about Wesley's life after swimming and the charms.
yes, and how he's has this legacy to this day.
Well, let me first say that, again, my whole approach to seeing Wesley is I never saw Wesley's disability. I just saw Wesley, and I saw him as a blessing in my life. And he gave me a different perspective on life. Was just a blessing with me. I mean, I learned so much about myself and about how to live life to the fullest because of Wesley. And at 12 years old, we had to make a tough decision, which was to place him in a home. He was just too physically demanding for both my wife and I to be able to manage his care. And we were lucky to find a good home for him. So we put him in the home, and it was in Santa Ana, which was about maybe 15 minutes from Irvine. And he lived a pretty fulfilling life there until age 32. He passed away in 2022 of medical complications. Are we still there, Mark?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
We're good.
What else did you want me to share?
So now, talk about the grief. Let's talk about the charms and how
Oh,
you
what I'm doing now with Wesley's
yeah
charm after his death. Yeah. So one of the things that happens when you're a parent of a child with special needs, like I was grieving Wesley every day of his life. And what I mean by that, he couldn't talk, so I never heard him we'll never be able to communicate. Like I was grieving the loss of not being able to play catch with him, grieving the loss of not him playing sports, going to the prom, getting married, maybe having grandkids. And in 2021, I sold my house and decided to travel in an RV. And it was all about visiting every state in the country and just going to places and enjoying retired life. And then 3 months into the trip, I received a gift from a couple named Tammy and J.R. Adams. And what happened was they had picked up what's called Preston's Charm. It's the size of a business card with a picture of a soldier on it and a jewelry attached to it. And the birth date and the date that he died with the little saying that the mom put on there. It was made by his mother, Bridget Bagley. And Preston was a staff sergeant in the Army and served 15 tours of duty. On his way back to Fort Bragg, he was killed by a drunk driver. Bridget was devastated for 2 years, and she was just really struggling with traditional way of grieving. So she decided to turn into her crafting skills and created what's called Preston's Charm. And she wound up making 10, gave one to her husband, four to his surviving sons, and then some to her friends. And it kind of snowballed and caught on. She kept making more and more charms and started leaving them in different places when she went on vacation or when she went on walks. And on the back of the charm was instructions on what to do if somebody found the charm. They could either leave the charm where they found it, they could keep it for as long as they like, or and then then leave it somewhere else and kind of pass it on to somebody. And then also on the instructions, Bridget asked to take a picture of where they found it or who they gave it to. And so she had her email address on there, and people would email Bridget, take a photo of the charm, explain what they did with it, offer their condolences. So basically what Bridget did was she gave people an outlet on how to practice empathy for her. And eventually Preston's Charm has been found in 24 different countries, 4 different islands, and it's also been found on cruise ships just by people passing it on from one another. So when I got the charm, I called Bridget up and I asked her to share the story with me, and I was so intrigued by it that I asked her to send me more charms, and I told her I was going to leave one of Preston's Charm in every state. So I did that. I completed the trip, left the charm in every state except Hawaii because there's no bridge to Hawaii. And I returned to her home in Winslow, Arizona, and met her for the first time. And when we were there, the more I heard her talk, the more I realized that there's a really beautiful story here. And she didn't know I was an author of 13 books at the time. So I asked her if I could write her story, and she said yes. So we start writing the book, and I continue to travel around the United States. And a year after I received Preston's Charm, Wesley passed away. So then Bridget made charms for Wesley, and she sent me about 200 charms. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm actually doing another tour now. Instead of leaving Preston's Charm in every state, I'm leaving Wesley's Charm in every state. And I've done 20 states already, and I'm in Pennsylvania now where you live, Mark. And I'm going to be speaking at a bereaved parents conference this weekend to share my whole story and the inspiration behind what I call the Let's Talk Grief USA tour.
Okay. So I'm a swim coach, or we talk to a lot of swim coaches with our association and our efforts. And you're sort of like a captain of a big ship with parents and staff and guardians and kids of all ages, alumni. You're part of the community, lifeguards, whatever. And how are there some things that a coach can do in terms of being present at a time of need when somebody passes, maybe it's, part of your team or part of, your community, that's, a grief phase. What, what are some things that a coach might be able to do, or how would
Well,
you approach some of
that's a
those things?
great question because can they see the charms here on the
Yeah,
screen? Okay. Well, this is Preston. Let me give me a minute here. Okay, so this is Preston's charm right here.
right.
You can see his photo. You can see the little poem that, and each charm is personalized. You can put some whatever quote or saying you want on there, and you can see Bridget's email address where you send it, and then on the back is the instructions. And this design of the charm is copyrighted. And then this is Wesley's charm. And that poem that I put on there, I wrote that for Wesley. It's called Instead. And that's one of my favorite pictures when he was young. And one of the fascinating things that has come out of the passing of Preston's charm is that it's given people permission to talk about grief, because grief is really tough to talk about. Nobody really wants to talk about it. And the charm has become kind of an icebreaker. And I have seen the impact that it has had on people that have charms that we made for their loved one. It's really helped them heal. And I think you and I were talking about the 3 officers that were killed from a bomb explosion, I believe, in San Diego. And one of the officers was a swim parent. Correct, Mark?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So an example would be, and again, we have such difficulty understanding how to approach people, but nobody's actually been teaching that. And that's part of what I'm doing with Let's Talk Grief, is I'm teaching the grievers how to reach out and ask for help, because a lot of time grievers have unrealistic expectations about how people are supposed to practice empathy for them. And then you have people that want to help, but they don't know how to help because they haven't been shown how to help. And then it turns into what I call the grief standoff, kind of like a version of the Mexican standoff, where nobody says anything and then nobody does anything, and it leaves the griefer even more isolated. And then people that want to support just kind of go on with their lives. So one of the things I discovered is I had a friend of mine, EJ, his wife, Wendy, passed away last year in June. And about a month after she passed away, I was fighting with myself. Well, should I call EJ up and offer the charms to him? Because I didn't know where he was emotionally and if he was ready even to understand the concept of it. And that's another thing that people are struggling with, is to try to understand the concept of, well, why are you offering me this charm? But I can tell you this, I have suggested making the charm for almost every family I approach accepted it. So one thing the coaches can do is, they can reach out to the family and offer their condolences and say, hey, listen, and I want to preface it with this. There's actually grief relief kits out there, but they're called grief kits. It's a grief kit business, and it's not anything like this charm. There are grief kits that have like baskets, and they have like tea bags in it, lotions, um, flowers. But that basket, it just collects dust and takes up space. Once the tea's gone, it's gone. They also sell jewelry, like necklaces with little symbolism of the person that died. With the charm, you actually have something more personalized because you have the photo of the loved one that passed away. And the the parents can personalize it with quotes and all that stuff. So it's very, very unique. And not only that, you can pass the charm and give them to people to help them also grieve. We forget a lot of times that, for example, the kids that are on the swim team, they're grieving also. And we tend to kind of isolate them and we separate them from like a different grief. And so you can reach out to the parents and offer condolences and just kind of say, hey, we have this unique gift that we want to give you. And if you're ready for it, we would be happy to pay for the charms, which they aren't that expensive, but you can get a bunch of people and you can maybe purchase like 100 charms and say, we want to give you some charms, but we also want to offer the charms to some of the kids on the team because they might want to carry your loved one's spirit with them as they go along. It's a way to help people remember because we forget. And now they actually have something that they can remember. So I have a family, the Thorntons. They had two children die, a 4-month-old daughter from choking, and then their son, who was 20 years old at the time, was murdered. And we offered the charms to them, and it's helped them heal in harmony together. So much so that the two surviving daughters carry both of their siblings' charms with them. The 16-year-old has kind of minor disabilities, more social. I think she's diagnosed. I think it was with a. I think it's like a. I can't think of the name. I mean, she looks normal, but she's a slow learner. Let's just say. And I was sitting with the family talking to them, and both the 16 and 12-year-old were really open and to talking to me about the grief and also what the charms meant. And Maddie said that because of her special needs, kids can be very mean. And she said that the charms of her sister and brother motivate her to want to not let that affect her because she doesn't want to let her siblings down. And it's helped her struggle through those challenges. And then with Sydney, she's a remarkable 12-year-old. She's one of those kids that can do everything well. I mean, she shoots guns, she hunts, she can remove a water pump and replace it in a car. She plays the trombone, and she's a wrestler. So 12 years old, she's dominating in the wrestling world, and college coaches are already looking at her. So she was at a wrestling meet one time, and one of the coaches asked her, "Why are you so passionate about being a wrestler?" And she said, "It's because I'm wrestling for my brother and my younger daughter." And he goes, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, they both passed away, and I carry their charms and I carry their spirit with me to be the best wrestler I can be." And the Iowa coach said, "I want you to meet somebody." Well, it just happened that one of his wrestlers on the college team had a brother who died. And her inspiration to be a better wrestler was to do it for her brother. But she didn't have the charm. Sydney had the charm. So that's one way you can reach out to the parents and just kind of let them know, hey, there's another way there's another way to help them grieve. But what it also does, it encourages people to actually practice empathy, actually do things for the family. Because people are don't have quite an understanding between the difference of sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is sending flowers or sending a card, and that's only temporary. Empathy is more that you're actually doing something like giving them a charm or coming over and saying, "Hey, that you're having a tough time. How about if we ask some people to make pre-cooked meals for you so that you can, or help wash the cars, or do something where they can utilize that time to help them go through the grief process. Even some people might be financially strapped because they can't afford the funeral. Let them know that you can do that. So the other thing, part of empathy and the difference between sympathy too, is that Sympathy is also like attending the funeral and then you don't see them anymore. What people don't understand is that grief is there for those people for the rest of their life. And they need support for the rest of their life. They need to receive phone calls like 2 months later. Hey, Hogan, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? Hey, how about if we go to lunch together? And you don't even have to talk. You just have to be present with them and kind of say, hey, I'm here for you. What, and let them talk about, I let them talk about Wesley, and then we go into other conversations. It's really about just spending time. You don't even have to do anything. You just need to spend time with these people and let them know that uh, you're there to support them. And then, I mean, you can even go even further than that, which I'm trying to teach to the grieving community is when they go to support groups, I, I ask them, why don't you invite your kids, invite your friends, invite your neighbors? I vision that down the road that people in the neighborhood where a parent has lost a child will say, hey, Jeff, man, I know you're really struggling. I hear you're going to these support groups. If you don't mind, I'd like to go because I'd like to know more about what you're going through. And I think the benefit to someone like that is if you haven't lost a loved one yet and you're supporting someone else who has supported a loved one and you're practicing empathy by actually accompanying him there, now you're doing a great service because now they're not going alone. Because so many grievers feel isolated and alone when they're going through the grieving process. So as you're going to the grieving support group, and you don't have to go every time, but eventually down the road, the reality is someone in your family or someone you know close to you is going to die, and you're going to be grieving. You're going to want someone to be empathetic to you. And this is kind of an example how empathy is a two-way street. Another way you can practice empathy too is Bridget and I were discussing about how when she goes to the gravesite, she always goes alone and her husband doesn't want to go. And none of her friends want to go. And she would wonder, well, why aren't these people going with me? And I said, well, have you asked them? And she goes, well, I've asked them, but they said no. I said, well, you got to keep asking. And another thing that suggestion I made was instead of asking one person to go with you all the time, is ask 12 people or 20 people and say, hey, I don't like going alone. Would one of you go in January, one in February? Have one person go with you every month so that you don't burden one person with the responsibility of going with you all the time. And then that way, people know, hey, that's a great idea. Oh, yeah, I can do in March or I can do in January, whatever. You can delegate how to do that. Another thing that happened was uh, Bridget, on the day that Preston died, or no, on his birthdays and holidays are the toughest, and the day that the loved one died are the toughest. So we decided to invite Bridget's relatives and friends on Preston's birthday. They held a party at the cemetery at his gravesite. And she was a little hesitant, and she goes, well, she was worried about how many people were going to show up and worried about what was going to happen and just really pessimistic about the whole thing. And I said, look, stop worrying about who's going to show up. Just invite, and whoever's there, embrace it. Well, 14 people showed up, and they spent 4 hours with her. And there was not one tear was shed because everybody was feeling so good about celebrating Preston's birthday. And that's another concept that people don't understand is that when Preston died at age 28, he will always be 28. And there's no reason that you can't celebrate the birthday in spirit. And it benefits everybody. And
Right.
the point I want to make here is when a community comes together like that, when you look at families, they're so fractured. Everybody's grieving differently. Everybody's isolated within the family. And one of the things that I've incorporated is called 8 Steps Back, that helps bring the family, create a new dynamics, because before the loved one died, there was 5 live human beings. Then when one dies, there's 4 live human beings and 1 there in spirit. And if you can picture it, the 4 survivors are isolated and grieving differently, and then you have the spirit up in heaven. So everyone's isolated, and my 8 Steps program brings the family back together in harmony, where they're grieving together, and now they have a new version of a family that have 4 survivors, but because they're grieving in harmony together within the household, now that spirit is not only in heaven, but also in the house and everywhere they go. And you could take that one step further, is that when they're in harmony, they project a more, what I call an optimistic way of looking at grief. And then if, for example, if a swim coach approaches the family and all of a sudden some of the members of the team and the parents of those members come in and do the charm and everything, you can see how the support system grows to where the whole community is grieving in harmony for that one person. And that can snowball into other families and other communities. It's just a way of really connecting people and showing people that the possibilities of helping people heal together in harmony is so beneficial to everybody in the long run.
All right. Well, thanks. Hey, Barry, you stepped into a heavy moment here. I want you to meet Hogan. Hogan, meet Barry. But Barry, you're fading out of your background. Is I can only see like a ghost of you now and then. If you have to unmute to speak, there you go. At the top, hit the microphone button.
Okay.
Hey, Barry, nice to meet you.
Yeah. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
Good. That was
So
very
Hogan's,
moving. I came in and I'm in a tough situation at the moment. I've just come back from a swim meet, and one of my top athletes who did very well about 10 days ago, his mother got taken from the small town we live in into Vancouver, and they think she's got leukemia. So it was neat to see your comments on that. I agree with you. Lots of times, as we grow older, we lose more and more friends and family. But I always found it the hardest thing is what mentoring my young coaches when it happens to them personally.
Thank you so much. Mark has been so gracious to kind of have me talk about this, and he really kind of opened my eyes a little bit. And people just in general, and the reason I called it Let's Talk Grief is because nobody wants to talk about it. And the reason is because we really haven't taught people how to talk about it.
I agree. Yeah. I think it's one of those things. It's like when you get divorced and all your friends, all their friends all go missing.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to talk to you.
Well, I think, I've had this vision with the charms, and I can just tell you from personal experience. I mean, and what I would like to do is I would like to donate some charms to this woman's family.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk to Mark if you want to connect with me. I can kind of give you kind of some instructions on how to delicately, introduce this to the family. If I can just share with you a quick story. So I'm friends with a 25-year-old gentleman who was part of a band, a country music band that's up and coming. And he called me and told me that the drummer in his band passed away. He was 28 years old. What happened was he was swimming in a lake in Oklahoma, and he was there with the lead singer, and JD was having trouble. And so Trenton went back to try to help him, but JD panicked and started pulling him down, and Trenton had to let go and swim back to shore, and JD drowned.
Mhm.
So now you have Trenton, who's dealing with this grief and guilt. So I hear the news, and I'm debating whether I should introduce the charm because it's a new concept. I don't even know the family. And I said to Marty a couple weeks later, I said, I'd be willing to give you and each band member 5 charms each, but you need to call the family and ask them for permission to make the charm. And in my head, I'm have this fear about how they're going to react. And again, it's just ask and stop putting that mindset that they're not don't worry about how they're going to react. Well, the family was so gracious. They go like, yes, we want you to make the charm. And I said, okay, I'll make 10 charms for you, and I'll give 5 charms to each band member. So that's just an example of how, people, I think, will embrace it if it's done correctly. And so I wound up giving the charms to the band members and sent the 10 charms, and they love it. And a year later, I'm on tour right now, and I'm driving in Oklahoma City to go see Marty and his family. And on the way there, I look at the sign and I go like, oh, that's the lake that JD drowned in. So I drove over to the lake. I parked my camper van. I go over to the dock and say a little prayer for JD and his family. I walk back to my RV to check my emails and check my Facebook. And I look at my Facebook page, and there's a post there from Trenton announcing that the day that I decide to go to the lake was the day that JD died.
Hmm.
I have had so many divine intervention moments like that.
That must
Well,
have been that must have been pretty hard.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
That must have been really hard.
Yeah, it was really emotional, and it's been really overwhelming. I mean, I have people, I invited people to submit essays. I have essays coming in, and they're just amazing because it's very therapeutic. And I think that's one of the amazing things about the charm. It's just so very therapeutic, not only for the family, but there's actually research that has been done. And I actually have a book that I published last year called Preston's Charm. It tells the whole story. And you know what? I will send a free copy to you as well, to you, Barry, and also you can give one to the family. But it tells the whole story. And kind of lost my thought here.
Well, we talk a lot in swimming about drowning, and death is part of the thing, and there's a lot of trauma, for the lifeguards, for the
Yeah.
staff,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
for the
Oh, I don't know what it was.
facilities, the managers.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what's going with this. So people forget the forgotten mourners is really more so focused on the surviving families, but I extend that even further. The forgotten mourners include teammates of the loved one, friends of the loved one, friends of the family, the co-workers. I mean, it's the whole community that's affected. And we have isolated grief to only talk about it in support groups. And it's really been a disservice to the people that are in the support groups, because the only safe place they feel that they can talk about it is in support groups, when we should be able to create a safe environment anytime, anywhere.
I'm sure you've had some other experiences too in your career, Barry, where different events have happened and it impact your team or your.
Yeah, it. I think that the comment before, it comes up all the time, and it's how you handle it. People try to say you can't spell death, but and my big issue about, very passionate about the drowning issue of how do we make it less. But in some cases, like here during the winter, where we had that young man go through the ice and actually get out of the ice and make a phone call to his sister passed out back in the ice. That had an amazing effect on just what it was just said, on the whole community, not just the family, the wider community. And then I find out 3 weeks later that same week, we lost 5 young people between the ages of 18 and under, all in different ways, And in a small community of ours of only 20,000, that touches everybody. And it's, you never get used to death. I don't think you just get.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's about managing, and actually you kind of hit on a important note that I point out is I did some research, and in the United States, there are 8,000 deaths every day. And when you include the funeral attendants, on the average, I used 100 for math simplicity.
Yeah.
That means 800,000 people, at least 800,000 people, are affected by grief every day. And when you compare that to the number of people that actually attend support groups, the average attendance per month is only 15.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense when you look at the numbers. You just realize that death is eventual, grief is going to be there at some point in everybody's life, and we're ignoring it.
I think it's a really good point. Last week, when I was told 2 weeks ago that the young man, and I'm quite close to the family, that there was illness or severe illness in the family, and my first thing is, how do I support this young man and the family without going overboard? And I always remember one of my former members, a guy called Harry Gallagher. When I started losing young families and close families, brother and sister, he gave me little tips of how to handle it. But this one, I just said one line to the young man. I said, I know your mom's in a hospital. You know that I'm here for you if you want to talk at any time. You just need to leave early, or you need to just talk to me. I said, that's all I'm here for. And then I said to him, I says, these next couple of weeks, I know are going to be hard. Just do what your mom would expect you to do. And that's have fun and race and do the best so that she knows you're okay. And that seems to have worked. I still haven't had a debrief with him. I need to talk to the father. I saw the father over the weekend a little bit. But it's stressful. It wasn't just stressful for me and the family. It was stressful for his whole team, right? For the whole team that we got, because they all know what's going on. And I could see their joy when he swam very, very fast, and he picks up medals and he's hugging everybody, and that sort of helped. But in the back of your mind, you know what he's going through, and you sort of have to.
Well, you're absolutely right about the comment you made, is the fear of overstepping your boundaries.
Yeah.
And really, nobody knows what that is. It's personal. It depends on the person. Because some people will get upset because they might not even know what the boundary is for them.
Yeah. This boy's been with me since he was been 6, like before I coached his brother. So it's been a long journey for me with his family and stuff. And they've had death in the family a few times by, car accidents and everything else. That's the same we all face sometimes. But one thing I found that this weekend, I didn't even mention it. I just leave it to him. The door's always open if you want to talk about mom. And I think it helped him. I think it helped his sister and his dad that he was doing well, because we were expecting he could probably say at any time, and I was ready for it, I don't want to do this today. I was ready to say, go do whatever you need to do, right? You've got my support. I think because I've been with him so long, he knows that I will honor those things.
Yeah.
We actually got to the point sometimes of having some laugh.
Well, that's honorable of you to do that, but how many people are actually doing that for them
Yeah.
is the other question. You might be doing it for that child, but you might be the only one doing that. And then, how many people are doing it for the husband or for the other kids? I don't know, but you know where I'm getting at.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
It's really honorable that you do that, but sometimes it's just one or two people that are doing that within the whole community, or
Mhm.
even within families, relatives, because of the drama or whatever bad relations they have with each other. Um, they don't have anybody. People who are grieving just feel so isolated, even when people are offering help. The normal answer whenever because it happened to me and I was guilty of it. I'll share this last story is when I was raising Wesley, I was grieving every day. And my lean child comes over to my house, a friend of mine, and I think Wesley was around 3 years old, and we were having a difficult time financially and dealing with the medical industry and medical insurance and all that stuff. And she says to me, Hogan, how are things going? And of course, I give the general answer. I think things are going okay. And she goes, no, they're not all going okay. I want to know what's going on. I said, no, they're okay. She goes, I'm not leaving this house until you tell me what's going on. And that's another way of kind of figuring out how to overstep your boundaries. And sometimes you might have to be a little more assertive. And in this case, I'm glad that she did, because she wasn't going to leave the house. So I told her what was going on. And she goes, Hogan, people in this community have been wanting to help your family, but we don't know how. You need to tell us. Give me a list. So I gave her a list. So the next thing I know, people were dropping off pre-cooked meals. We were getting checks in the mail from people to help us financially. And then 2 months later, the Irvine Police Department showed up with a handicapped bicycle that cost $2,000. Mylene went out and did a fundraiser so the police department could help raise money to buy it.
Mhm.
So that's just another example of, sometimes you do have to be a little bit assertive, because the family doesn't want to burden people in the community, but people want to help. And that goes back to that whole grief standoff thing.
Mhm.
And again, I do want to go into it, that the charm is a way of initiating empathy. It's been a great icebreaker where people start talking about it. And the other thing is, we hear this all the time about, soldiers get killed. About 9/11, we'll never forget. But the truth of the matter is, people forget. With these charms, we have kids putting them in their ladies putting them in their purse, guys having them hook them up to the backpacks. And I'm picturing, especially like with all these school shootings, and even now, like, with kids in school, it would be a beautiful thing that, and this is what I vision is, okay, you have a swim team member, one of their teammates passes away, and we do the charms for the family, and say this kid is 10 years old and he's carrying the charm for like until he goes to high school and he goes into college and he winds up graduating, and he goes back to the family and he goes, I just want you to know I graduated from college and I still have Jennifer's charm. The healing that family's going to get is phenomenal. And not only that, it's going to keep, I see it like as a great motivational tool as well.
One thing that you noticed lots of times is that some people don't know what to say. Some people, it's never happened before. And all I said to my young coaches that I've mentored that have lost people, whether it's right or wrong, I go, I don't know what to really say, but I found for myself is I just think about all the good times I've had. I don't think about the bad times, and even to the point when I've lost great coaching friends, every now and then I laugh about silly things we did together, or silly comments, and that seems to help. It really does. It gets you through a point that you want to think about them. You don't want to just like put them out of your mind, because they've been a major part, whether you've had good times or bad times. But if you think about the good times and the funny times, things that didn't go quite right, it does help the soul a little bit from everybody's case. And I wish more people would do that. But you have a great idea there. I love the part about empathy. It's a thing that's missing on both sides of the border, and around the world at the moment. My dad always used to. My dad was a miner for many years, and he always came up with this frame. I don't know if you use it in the States. I'm all right, Jack. It's not a problem. And the all right, Jack, used to come from when they was first starting with their unions, and they wanted better conditions and everything else. But there would always be somebody in that group that would, I'm all right. I don't need to be involved in this. And it took me a long time to understand what my dad was getting at. Those people don't really help you in some cases. They're just looking after themselves. And unfortunately, I see that in society at the moment. It's spreading very, very fast, that you don't need empathy. And it's just too bad that people have lost lives or they're suffering. It's not my problem. But in fact, you actually have to say, no, if we're all here to try and make everything a little bit better for everybody, not just for ourselves. And that's a hard road to go along, but I see it disintegrating very, very quickly at the moment by media and by stuff that's put out there. It doesn't really matter. You only have to look after yourself. And
Yeah.
I try to tell my kids every day that's not the way the world goes.
Mm-hmm.
In a small team like ours, we need everybody liking us, so that when we go onto the bigger stage, they know who we are, and we have friends in every part of the country. That's my view of things, because they say, how come I know so many coaches? And it's just because I care about everybody. Like I
Mm-hmm.
had to talk to friends at the weekend that have I didn't realize has been divorced since Christmas, and you're going, I'm sorry. It's not a good job to be in for a family, and you have.
Well,
to
you make a good point about there's actually a selfish component on the griever side, as well as the people that are in the community. Like empathy really is making time. Sympathy is just temporary, where you send a card or whatever, right? An analogy I like to use is, even the simplest thing, we don't practice empathy. And this oftentimes happens usually in big cities like LA or New York. So you're driving down the freeway and you're trying to change lanes and you turn your signal on. And I've seen this happen so many times where people don't let that person in.
Yeah.
Right. And you have to sit there and go like, well, if I was that person and trying to change lanes and I needed to get off at the next exit, would I want somebody to let me in? And of course the answer is yes. But when it's the reverse, you're doing everything not to let that person get to their destination.
My wife gives me grief for that all the time. She goes,
Yeah,
she does, but I do it the opposite way. She goes, I don't know why you're getting frustrated with the guy behind you, because you haven't told him which way you're going yet.
Yeah. And you also made another good point. And, people, is like you said, you focus on all the good times that you've had with that person. And even the grievers have a hard time with that. And what I say in my presentation is that the death of your loved one is just one event in their life.
Mm-hmm.
You have had so many memories with that person that you've died. Sure, there are going to be exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, there's so many memories that you can focus on. But grievers get so stuck in that one moment of death and trying to overanalyze how they died, why they died, to the point where they forget about those memories. So I think that's kind of one of a good tip to say to people that want to help, is say, hey, listen, when you're talking to someone that's grieving, try to find ways to encourage the griever to talk about the positive things. So that's, I think, is an excellent point that you made.
All right, let's wrap that up. Barry and I have some things to chat about for the last 2 weeks, and
Well, thanks for giving me the opportunity. Are you okay with me offering and accepting a couple of books that I can send to you and information about the charms to see if the family would accept a free offer of charms for their loved one?
Yeah, no problem. Mark's got my address.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll make that happen. Thanks, Larry. It was wonderful meeting you, and I appreciate all the work you're doing in the swimming community as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks again, Mark.
Thanks. Sure. So boom, I'm going to remove Hogan. There. All right. Thanks for that. I knew you could offer a bunch of good stuff too. The the heavier knot has taken on a lot of heavy topics. So this is another one. You can't get much heavier than that.
No, it's a really tough one, but I sort of look at that. You know, I came in and just sat, and he's a very good talker, and you can tell he's got pain and he's got love and he's got a great soul from the first few words. But I wish sometimes, in fact, I had a meeting with the new CEO of Swim BC for half an hour during the meet. And I was saying, you know, I asked him straight off, how's the job going? He's come from modern biathlon, right? So he's got a different perspective. And first thing he said to me, he says, everybody's got an opinion. And I go, oh yeah, the opinions are this wide. And he says, everybody's working in their own silos. I go, I'm glad you noticed that. But he admitted that Swim BC's in its own silo too. And so if you take that death part of being one of the few things in this journey or pathway, whatever way they keep changing this is a journey, this is this. You can actually, I don't know if you know what the Bet6 tapestry is. It's coming back from France. It's a French thing. It's a big mural. It was knitted and sewed about some great battles between the French and the English, and it should have always been in England. And it tells a story of how the battle started. I don't know how long it goes, probably 10 meters or 15 meters, and it goes along about the battle and how it ended and stuff. But I've always thought, and I've been very critical of Swim Canada. Swim Canada, as we have these on-track times, that you should be this fast by this time, you should be that fast at that time. And that does two types of things. It switches people, coaches and parents off. My kid's not going that fast, so they're not on this scale. And it's produced by a computer from Canadian Tire. And it's all about sales. If you sell this money, it goes here. Sell that money, it goes there. But in life is going up and down all the time. And you have to get to the point of, I'm here, I'm going to get to here, I'm going to get to here, but without forcing it. Because we can't change some things. You can change it if you go into the weight room. Yes, I'll change the shape of the person. I'll change the strength, and I'll change the attitude. And we'll get some quick results. But the other stuff that has to be added is I need to be increasing my commitment at some point, and everybody's different. But at some point along the line, people are going to start coming saying, I need to get some results. I need results at school. Oh, and by the way, there's a girlfriend or a boyfriend coming, hiding in the shadows. They're going to come into your life. And I think it would be not bad, even if you got first year athletes or coaches or second year coaches, and saying that this is the pathway. This is the pathway of what this athlete did. Because everything that I get from the US, looking at the data, very, very few maybe a handful of top age group, because between the ages of 10 and 12, ever made it to the Olympic team. Now, it's not saying they're not successful. We forget to track them after that sometimes. But did they go to college? Did they go into business? Did they do this? And all those things, we actually could say, hey, this year, some of you are going to fall in love. What's going to be the problems? What's going to be the challenges? And I see a lot of young coaches fall apart at that point. Some of them say, well, when they were 10 and 13, they used to listen to everything I said, Barry. Now they don't listen to me at all. I'm going, really? Ask their parents about that. But it's there. And death is a major one, right? This is going to happen. But it's more than just about death. It's about life impact. Hey, my dad's lost his job, or my mom's lost his job, or the business has gone broke. What do I have to do? And what do you have to do as a coach to help stuff? And sometimes you're not on your own. You got to go, I got to talk to the board and see if they'll drop the fees for 6 months. That's empathy. That's empathy at a big time. And you're going, well, it's none of your problems. And I talk to coaches that don't cross that. That's not my problem, Barry. I'm going, but it is. It's your kid, right? Your kid like your own in a sense. So it could be there, it could be added. Just for what do we do? I remember reading a great article. I think it was a master's paper that was written by somebody at NCAA Division I, that the coach was using the stress from the exams as stress for his program. He dropped everything else off. And I thought that was brilliant. I really did. It was like, whoa, I never even thought that I could use those stresses and change everything. And he had different lanes that you can come in at this time, you can go at that time. Everything's free. The main thing is let's finish these grades off. And I don't think too many coaches, unless they're in the system, if you're in the university system, somebody is keeping an eye on that, because you don't want to lose anybody off the team because they're failing grades. But in a club situation, it's going, no, I need to do that also at a high school. If they don't get these grades, maybe I have to pull off for a week and give them time to study. But we don't have a lot of classrooms. We don't have a lot. You just hope you've got a mentor that will tell you that stuff.
So what else is happening with your insurance battles or investigations? You sat down with them? Are they?
I haven't got back to the insurance people yet. I met with maybe 9 different coaches because I know it's going to. There'll be some coaches. I already get this feeling. There'll be some coaches that say it doesn't bother me. I'll cross that bridge when it comes, and I'm fine with that. But what I have told the coaches board is that we have to address this issue. If we don't have insurance and we don't have the right policies in place, then we at least have to tell the membership, you're not covered for this, this, and this. We have to do that fairly early. And so yesterday I wrote to the head of the new guy at Swim BC. I said, I didn't bring this up. I said, in our meeting, I said, but this is key. We need to know what insurance Swim BC has that covers the coaches. Not just, it might be this, it might be that. We need the full package. And I said, we've been informed by 2 insurance companies now. There's a 3-month waiting period from when you pay your full first fees to being coverage. And I can see why they have that. That's just, that's just the way it is. And I spoke to some female coaches, and one of them, she's a great coach, but she also owns 1 or 2 liquor stores. So she understands insurance to the high end, like break-ins, people falling, people dropping stuff. I need some strong women leaders. And I said to her, I said, you'd be a great person to be all like why you need insurance, no matter what job it is, right? So it's good. I'm going to write maybe tomorrow. I'll write to the Canadian Coaches Association and the one in Calgary and start. Canadian one is already ahead. We already know what the price will be, but I'm going to ask because there's no problem in asking what if we bring the whole bundle of swimming coaches, which I don't think they have. What will be the price break? Will we get a reduction? Will we get a fast tracking situation? Because some of the senior guys that I spoke to, Barry, we need to do this. Some of the young coaches, it might be a problem, but hopefully their mentors will guide them and go, hey, it's like an investment in your career, I suppose. And then between a few of us, including you, we need to break down, does the coach come in and pay everything? Do we try and get the clubs to pay part? Do we try and get the associations to put part? Do we try to get sponsors to pay part of it? So it's not, I can't afford that. There is some gray areas there where it's going, what happens if the club is going against the coach or the coach is going against the club? Then we're like, there'll have to be a break point there on who does what. But for the sport, when we talked about it a few times over the weekend, if we had a, like a 250,000 legal thing for each of us, most of them came back and said with the same passion that probably a lot of the parents that come up with trivial little thing, I'm going to sue you for this, wouldn't do it if they knew we had 250,000 sitting on every one of us. And they're probably right on that. They probably say it's not worth it. This thing could drag on. And in most cases, in some cases, it's a matter of sitting down and going, hey, we both made mistakes here. That's not an issue. What do you think about that idea?
Yeah, let's keep plugging. So I have two questions then. Should I take some of the content that we've already recorded, some of your statements and some of those conversations with the other two women, and blend them into podcast episodes?
I would.
Yes.
Yes, I would do it on the point of an introduction to what you use with toolbox,
Yep.
right? Sometimes it's like we need to this is an interesting topic for you to understand, right?
Okay.
We've broken it down into bite-sized
All right.
points, right?
And then I wonder if we should open up a monthly office hours so that we can have an ongoing conversation about insurance. And then, you could sort of manage the agenda, but okay, we have this expert coming in, or we've got, I think an ongoing thing that's everybody could come to one meeting, a meeting like this, and we can have 1,000 people on here, but we'll record it and try to get the experts to come in.
I think that's an excellent idea. It would be it would be nice if I'm looking at you getting a lot of people now starting to view some of this stuff, which is always good. But it would also be nice. Have you had to use insurance in your career? Would have insurance made a difference to your career?
Yeah.
That really simple, yes. And if we had a little box and saying this is what happened, just bullet points, then we would also be getting some data which would be useful for the insurance companies too, because it's all about bodies. I'm going, okay, this issue keeps coming up. Are we missing? Like the one lady in her notes, I thought it was quite interesting, and I've never ever thought about this because more and more coaches now take their computers onto deck for whatever reason, right? They And the third example was somebody steals your laptop, gets into all the files of everybody that's in your book, and now the parents come back and sue you for breach of security and breach of information. I'll be honest, I never thought that could happen, but I'm seeing it more and more because we work in a sense non-secure environments, right?
Right.
People are
Right.
coming and going all the time. We can all say, hey, that would never happen, but sometimes we're training when there's public coming in and out of buildings. When I
Sure.
was right.
Okay. Yeah. So then I did have a nice meeting. I sent you the notes with a guy that does a lot of work on the other side, Dr. Tom Griffiths. He was a Penn State University professor, another old man, old OG, and he consults a lot with insurance companies so that when a facility gets their insurance, they're doing risk assessment and they're trying to manage the safety and such. So that was sort of an interesting thing. But he did mention a couple people that I need to that we could talk to here.
All
But
right.
like the one company that he works with for 6 years is the state of Nevada. And I guess in the US, a lot of our insurance is very state specific.
Okay.
So this one firm wrote the insurance for all the rec centers and swim pools in Nevada, all the little towns. And so they would go in and they would have a meetings and they would visit sites. And anyways, it's very interesting. And that's stuff that I don't really know. But the Redwoods group does a lot of it, for YMCAs and aquatic centers, and they're in California, and another group does a lot of it for the colleges and universities. So there's definitely a lot of expert people out there that we could maybe lean upon or bring into a network that would be fun to hear from. So okay, but do you have a time or a date that would make great sense for putting a stake in the ground? Say, okay, every month on the first or the third of the month at 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. Mountain time, let's pick a time and just see how it goes, and maybe schedule out 3 months or 4 months in advance. We're gonna have open office hours, and we can sort of start building almost a course or a lessons or a handbook for understanding insurance, or the toolbox.
All right. I'll have a look.
Okay. Then two other things. So this Tom Griffiths also has an app. It runs on your phone or on your desktop, and it helps lifeguards spot a drowning victim. And it's sort of like a good in-service thing. And once you spot it, there's a lot of happening at the pool, and it's something that's free. And he's looking for people to download it and use it. And then he has like part 2 that you pay like $4 or $5 for, which is outdoor pools. And so it sort of helps train people to think. And he even thinks there's a value for that if you're a grandma or a mom and you're taking your kid to the pool, that spot, something happens underneath the sliding board or something
Yes.
happens on the, and there's all this something. And he talked a lot about, how the scanning, the lifeguards have to really use all their brain cells to watch what's going on and not be distracted. And anyway, so that app might be a nice thing to leverage and get out far and wide sometime. And it's free and it's a download. The technical guy that did the app with him is a fellow named Eric, who's in Philadelphia. And I've been talking with him and trying to get him possibly involved to being a developer for what we're trying to do. That's it. I had another conversation just this morning with the woman, Catherine, in South Africa that has videos. You wanted a non-disclosure agreement signed from her.
Yeah.
So she asked me offline a bunch of questions what that really was about. So right now she's not going to look at your stuff, but she's going to get me a look at what she has.
Okay.
Like pricing and how do you sell it. She thinks she has about 35 or 45 videos on breaststroke ready to go that would be one module. And I said, well, your stuff isn't really that dense in videos,
No.
and she's doing almost all videos.
Mhm.
So I said, there's more of a compatibility, you're more compatible than you are competitors.
Yeah.
And so anyways, I don't know how good it is or how much she has, and I've encouraged her to use this Substack platform because you can charge for it. But I would love to be able to have a eventual business agreement with her so that we could sell her stuff and then she could sell
Yeah.
our stuff.
Yeah.
And so she was away for a couple weeks, so she's back in town now, and she's going to share something with me for the water safety with South Africa. So that's still moving. What about your website for your local thing? Are the people on that or
Yeah,
not?
I've got to catch up with them because with me being
Okay.
away, I left last Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
And I didn't get back
Yeah.
on Monday night.
All right. Well, that was just
I'll
on my
follow
list.
up with them today.
No worries, no rush. That was all my notes for right now. I'll start leveraging that insurance stuff.
Okay, thank you. I really like listening to that guy. It's is he First Nation? What's his background?
Hogan, it was he has a dad that was from the Netherlands, and he's more Indonesian.
Okay.
But he's a California guy.
Yeah.
His son is professional. He has three boys, and
Okay.
Wesley, his middle son, who has passed. And I got his whole video. We did a dry run, and I recorded it, so I'll put that up online. But his youngest son has played professional volleyball in India. This fall and winter, he'll be in Puerto Rico.
Wow.
He had experiences, on the beach and in the courts and stuff. So, anyways, he'll just sort of an interesting fellow. And when I was a stay-at-home dad, when my kids were young, and he was a stay-at-home dad, we formed this stay-at-home dads network.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a conference, a national. And so I went to the second one ever, and that's still been going on. I lost touch with them, but so that they still keep it on. But we were pretty rare that dads would stay home.
Oh yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
So, but now it's a lot more common.
Yeah, my son-in-law is. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so we were the trailblazers, but and our kids are all older. So, anyways, that was sort of a weird connection. So, but he came here then some years later, and was speaking to a childbirthing thing about the dad's perspective in this childbirthing, and now he's sort of trying to interject a little more of this grieving process. So yeah, he would be a nice presentation. And he has 8 steps that are sort of interesting, but yeah. So and he's authored some books. So yeah, I'll blend some of his stuff into a future materials as well.
Okay, that's great. I'll send you some results. My
yeah. Tell me what happened. Did they get one too?
Oh, dude, I had so many coaches. First day it's quiet. We ended up. I don't know where we are going to finish up on the medals thing, but I had been my fast guy made Olympic trials the junior time. He went from 211 to 209 low, just broke the meet record by 4 seconds, but just missed the provincial record by a few tenths. But he won the 100, he won the 50 free, 100 free, 200 free, 400 free, 100 and 200 backstroke, 50 backstroke. I think 50 fly, maybe 8 wins and the 100 fly, I think he was second. But what was really nice, my other two boys broke through. My flyer got silver in he just moved age group into 15 and 16. He got a silver in the 50 fly, went 26.2. But my big guy, like the very tall one, who's only in his third year of swimming, wins his first medal. Swam an unbelievable 800 free. I was waiting for the wheels to fall off all the way through the race, and that's nothing against how hard he works, just how hard these kids were swimming. And he took 16 seconds off his 800, and he placed third. And then he swam an amazing 200 and placed third again. And then in the 400, they both of them did a really poor job in the morning. In fact, it was quite funny. First time I've ever got upset with him. I go, what the hell were you playing at, right? Well, we were just listening to what you said. I go, it doesn't seem like you listened very well. And they snuck in lane opposite sides of the pool, not in the outside lanes, but the one in. So there's 10 lane pool. So they're in 7 and 8. And I go, guys, I said, you nearly give me a heart attack on that. I said, that was actually crazy. I go, you go 5 seconds slower. And the guy in the first heat went 10 seconds faster under the side, went faster than you two have ever been. We noticed that. I go, but you didn't do anything about it. So anyway, they knew I was not happy. Everybody was writing them off and stuff. I met with both parents, the dad for both of them. I go, that's just by luck we're in there. Nothing else. I said, they swam side by side, just looking at it. If there was a synchronized men's team event, they would have won it hands down. It was stroke for stroke. But my girls were not impressed. My wife was not impressed. Everybody's watching it on TV. So they come in at night and they dive in and they're gone. I go, oh no, it's going to go the opposite way now. It's going to go. And they're going to go out like bat out of hell and die on the second 200. But they ended up getting first and third again in the 400 with very, very good times, like 4:18, 4:19. And a guy broke in between that got onto Finn's tail at the end. So it was really nice to see. My brain is still fried. I'll have to go back and look at what I did different. I know we did some stuff later than I normally would have done, like on strength in the water. I'm going to go back to my thing and then just have a look and say, did that pay off moving it closer to this meet? I think we got the taper right, but we got the taper right just because we don't get pool time. I lose all my night pool time. So we only got 10 till 12. And I was talking to some young coaches and they don't ever get that opportunity and say, does it help, Barry? And I go, well, it helps when I was going to nationals before that, because that's the time of racing, 10 to 12 at nationals. And the warm-up is just before, but it goes from 6 till 9. So some things are forced on me, but their attitude and confidence was out of this world. And it was nice to see. It's always nice. Our provincials are so hard. It was nice to see having not just Finn just finishing everything off for the summer, but it was nice to see the other two break through and get some respect for the hard work they've put in. So it just creates more work, as you know, but the next thing is getting this insurance thing. I think we're pretty close. I really do. I'm sure I'm going to get some pushback, as you said the other week, but I don't think the pushback has got any grounds. You know, if we're not insured and that we've not been told, then that's not our fault. Then that's coming from the insurance company and whoever we've been paying the money to. But that will also bring some.
But what about at the meet? Was there 10-year-olds there? Did your little ones go to, or that's not?
No, our age groups at the beginning are 12 and under. So it's a very, very hard time to make. I think my little 10-year-old will be there next year.
Yeah.
if the times don't change. And then I'll have to make a decision. Do I just take her to one of those meets? You know, I don't have to do both, because during the winter she's playing hockey and doing other stuff.
Right.
And whether she's ready for it. That was her first regional championship. She went 12 and under, and she took it on really, really good. So there was no tears, there was no mum hugging her like we've seen in the past. And she likes to win. She likes to race. And
so did you have 4 boys there? Or how many boys were this last week?
I had one boy from another club, and we got him through. He won a medal in the 200 backstroke. He's from right up north, and his coach doesn't send him because there's only one kid qualified for provincials. And he's fun. He looks like a farm kid. He's so green, and being from this is a small town.
But no relays then?
No relays. And I could have taken relays, but I made the decision, Mark, that, you know, between the 2 of them, well, between the 3 of them, they already had 12 to 16 races, heats and finals.
Yeah.
And if I'd added the relays, that would have added another 6 or 12 races.
Right.
And I know when I came back from winter, even though it was nice winning the bronze in the 4x100, that was nice for them, but that really extended the day. I felt I was at an advantage this week. And most days, the latest I was there in the morning, was 11:30, 12 o'clock, and we were out, done. And I think that gave us an advantage over the other clubs, swimming heats and relays and staying around and eating late and getting less rest, both from a coaching perspective and from an athlete perspective. It was like, you're done, get out of here quickly. And they came back fresh. I could see, apart from the day, the 400. I'll see if I can send you the link. Some of the races are really neat to watch. I'll go back and watch them, and I'll get that breakdown fairly soon. I don't mind sharing that with you about splits. Some of the splits are ridiculous. The 209 was 103, 106. 2 on the back. He went first time under 2 minutes, long course for 200 free. Went 54.0. But the 800 and the 400 by the new kid it's really neat. And when I talked to his dad, I think his dad's 6'6" or 6'7". I'm sort of looking like this, and I go, it's okay. He's got to learn. He's got to learn. Don't say anything. We'll see what happens when he comes back this afternoon. And Dad's been out shopping, and he's doing everything for the boys. It's all right. Have fun. It was a great meet.
Awesome.
If I place in top 10 in the medals, I'll probably get less Christmas cards from some of the coaches. They might have done it. All right.